She's fucked up. She's a fucked up crazy bitch. Hey, this is Megan in the restricted section. Today I'm going to be doing an April wrap-up and also book haul. Okay, so in the month of April, I read 4 books for Genreathon, and then I read 2 books outside of Genreathon. I think that I did get a little burnt out after doing Genreathon, so I had trouble. I was kind of on the struggle bus as far as reading goes after that, but the 4 books I read for Genreathon I'm not going to describe in too much detail because Sue and I did do a wrap-up video about them, which I will link below. So the first book I read for Genreathon was Bitch Planet by Kelly Sue DeConnick and Valentine DeLandro. That was a really fun graphic novel. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm going to be looking for more of those. It's about a women's prison planet. The second book I read for Genreathon was Quarantine by John Smolens. Sue and I actually had different opinions about this book, which is interesting because usually we agree pretty closely. It was a historical fiction novel set in like 1796 about a ship that brings a sickness to this port town. I do not think that it was like the highest quality literature, but I did find it interesting or entertaining, and I blew through it pretty quickly. So the next book I read for Genreathon was The Seer by Ali Smith, which is a play. It was a really interesting play that went to like a really weird place, and I thought it was really cool how that turned out. And the last book I read for Genreathon was Fairest by Marissa Meyer, which is book 3.5 of the Lunar Chronicles series. I really, really did not like it. It was a prequel of sorts, kind of. It was trying to explain Queen Lavanna, who's the villain in the series, and kind of where she came from and how she came to be. And I feel like it was trying to be like, here's why she is the way she is. But she's like a straight up crazy bitch from the get-go, like from page 1. And she does some like really, really cruel and insane things. And I feel like it's treated with such levity in the book that you're not supposed to realize how fucked up that stuff is. But she's super fucked up. And I really didn't like that book. I gave it 1 star, which I'm pretty, pretty stingy with my 1-star ratings and my 5-star ratings. So it was pretty bad. Those are the books I read for Genreathon. The 2 books I read outside of that were Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doughty, I think is how you say her name. That is a non-fictional book. It's about her experience working in a crematory and then going to school to be a mortician and things after that. It was super interesting, and she kind of talked about her opinions of the American death industry and how we treat death in America and how that differs from other cultures. It talks about how we deal with death here in America and how the way that we deal with death here is not necessarily the best way to go about it. It's not the healthiest way to grieve and to deal with it. So I thought that was super fascinating. It did kind of change the way I thought about the whole death industry and everything to begin with. So it was a pretty cool book. That was the book that Sue and I read for our book club this month. We're meeting with those ladies this evening to talk about it, so that's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to hearing what they had to say about it. The other book I read in April, the last book I read in April, was Acceptance by Jeff Vandermeer. That's the 3rd book. I actually have that one. That's the 3rd book in the Southern Reach trilogy. And I actually thought I had finished this book prior to Genreathon. But I did not in fact finish it prior to Genreathon. I was not updating my Goodreads, and I got distracted with Genreathon. And then I was talking to my boyfriend about the book and about how it had gone and how I couldn't really remember how it ended for some reason. And then I realized that the reason I couldn't remember how it ended was that I had not in fact finished it. I was still probably like 70 some odd pages away from the ending. So, whoops. And it was pretty good. I plan to do a review about it because I've reviewed the other 2 books in the trilogy. I would like to wrap that up. It's probably my second favorite book in the trilogy. It kind of, you know, takes the first one and the second one, ties it in together. It takes place pretty much primarily in Area X. There are two characters who have like flashback perspectives, which is pretty cool. And then you have like what's going on in real time in Area X. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I will do a review on it in the very near future. So those are all of the books I read in April. I actually bought 6 books in April as well. 6 books is quite a bit more than I would typically buy. I try not to buy books just because I don't have a lot of space for them. So I don't like clutter. So I try not to buy a whole lot of books. I've been buying more recently. That is why I do kind of like using my Kindle. I'm not a big fan of e-readers, and I would much prefer to read an actual book, but my Kindle's nice because I can have, you know, a really large number of books on it, and it takes up, you know, very minimal space. But I did buy 6 books this month. So the first one I bought was Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari. Sue actually read this for our Genreathon, so she talks about it in our Genreathon wrap-up video. I have not read it yet. I'm looking forward to reading it because I think it will be smart and funny and interesting. I purchased Quarantine by John Smolens, which I read for Genreathon. I've already talked about that. Bought One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. I think is kind of the conclusion I came to about how to pronounce that. I had to Google it. I'm really excited about reading this book. It is kind of a, you know, modern classic. I also bought The Jaguar's Children by John Vaillant. This is a book about a young Mexican man who smuggles himself over to the U.S. And he has a cell phone with him, and that's like his only link to the outside world while he's smuggling across the border in a tanker. So it seems pretty interesting. I got this on Book Outlet, which I'm totally blaming Sue for my Book Outlet purchases this month because she told me about it. I picked this one up. It was in the scratch and dent section, which it's not really too bad. It's like the cover's a little bit wonky, but I got this one for like a couple bucks. No big deal. Also on Book Outlet, thank you Sue, I got The Martian by Andy Weir. My goal is to watch the movie before I read this book, because if I read this book and then watch the movie, I'll probably hate the movie. But if I do it in reverse, I should be able to appreciate them both. So that's my goal. This was also a scratch and dent purchase because there's like a little nick in the cover right here. So I got this for just a couple bucks too. And the final book I purchased in April was Day of the Oprichnich. I don't know how to say that because I don't speak Russian. This is by Vladimir Sorokin, and it's translated by Jamie Gambrell. This was, again, just a few bucks on Book Outlet, so it looked interesting to me. This is another kind of Soviet, from what I understand, it's kind of a Soviet dystopian novel of sorts. So this should be pretty interesting to read. It looks like it'll be a pretty quick read. It's not very long. So that is my April wrap-up and book haul. Other than what I read for Genreathon, I only read two books aside from that, which is kind of a bummer, but I think I did get kind of burnt out doing Genreathon, and also I had a lot of things going on this month personally, so I think that probably contributed to it, but I'm feeling good about May, and we'll see what I do in May. Sue and I we still have a couple of tags to catch up on, so that will be coming up soon. I think we have the New York Times Buy the Book tag. We were also tagged in the Intimidating TBR tag, so we're going to be doing that one. We were also tagged in the TMI tag, and holy shit, talk about TMI, that motherfucker is 50 questions long. So we're looking at some fun and creative ways to do that. So stay stay tuned for all that stuff. I'm pretty excited about it. It should be a lot of fun. So if you like our channel, please subscribe. I will post some links below where you can find Sue and I on social media. We are on Facebook, Goodreads, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. So if you are so inclined, go ahead and hit us up there. That's all for me today, so thank you for watching.